Okay, so I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting open for Wednesday, June 17th, 2020. We're going to start tonight at 6 p.m., so we're a little bit behind, but that's okay. For the WebEx portion, we have a lot of racket, so what I'm going to do, if you're not speaking, I would ask you to please hit that little red mute button. Thank you. Okay, very good. So our first order of business is schedule item 6 p.m. Theo's Restaurant Group, Incorporated, and they're seeking a wine and malt liquor license application. So this is a public hearing, so do I have a motion to waive the public notice?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Stronach. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was
Second, Mr.
Ms.
Kraft.
Malt.
Oh, that was, okay. Jane, well, Melissa's keeping track. Okay, very good. And because this is a virtual meeting, we have to take roll call votes. So essentially, a yea or a nay. So let's start with Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Miss Jane Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. So why don't we begin with the proceedings, the hearing. So typically what we're going to do is we'll hear from Theo's Restaurants representation. All right, bear with me here. Okay, I think that's doggone to hit you for a second there. So what we're going to do is we'll listen to the folks at Theo's Restaurants Group for their application. We'll have questions from the board. At that time, what I'll do is open up to the direct abutters. And again, direct abutters only, not residents. So with that being said, the floor is yours for Theo's Restaurant Group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members, thank you for your time. My name is Doug Hausler. I represent Theophilopoulos, and he's on this meeting with us, along with his wife, Stacy. We've submitted an application for a beer and wine license for the premises at 1625 Andover Street. It's a proposed new restaurant to be built of approximately 4,400 square feet with 74 seats. It's a $3 million plus investment into your town. I believe you're probably familiar with the location. It's directly in front of the Lowell 5 headquarters and next door to the hotel. My client has had experience before holding a beer and wine license. He's attempting to create a brand new restaurant that is a family-oriented restaurant. We have provided you with all of the financial details, the architectural details, budgets, layouts, parking arrangements, proposed lease. The real estate will be owned by a limited liability company owned by my clients, who in turn, that entity will lease to the operating company, which will be a Massachusetts corporation, which is the applicant before you this evening. I believe we've tried to provide you with all the required information in terms of ownership. I've been told by counsel for the town that as a policy, the town of Tewksbury does not allow a pledge of the license. So I have made arrangements with our proposed lender, the Lowell 5 Cent Savings Bank, and I've obtained permission from it to waive what is usually a requirement for the bank in terms of getting a liquor license pledge. So that issue has been resolved. Our goal is obviously first to try to get a license tonight or at least from your local approval, and then to go to the ABCC for the beer and wine license approval. Our ultimate goal is to get a 7-day all alcoholic license when such becomes available through the town. And we understand that the town has made efforts to either obtain additional licenses, and in the interim, we're still going to see if there's any for sale that become available within the town. I believe we provided all the information in a filing last week, or actually almost 10 days ago. And I'm open to questions at that point from the board, but I believe we can meet all your criteria.
Okay, perfect. And typically what I'll do is I usually open up to the board, but for this one here, I'm not going to say it was, it's just a different request in the fact that the establishment is not built. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to start with a few questions so we can maybe cut right to the chase, and then I'll open it up to the board for questions. Like I said, then we'll go to direct abutters. So, and you're absolutely right. All the paperwork was in line, and just for the residents, it's usually about, no exaggeration, the size of a couple books anyways, hundreds and hundreds of pages. So all the paperwork was fine in order, but a couple questions. When potentially are you planning to start construction?
Almost immediately. After, and Mr. who's on the line with this meeting, who represents the Daily Company, is going to help coordinate the construction, but I believe we'd be starting relatively soon. I think it may be subject to ABCC approval, and I'm going to have to try to expedite that as quickly as we can.
Okay. How about as far as, I see Mr. Milano, how about as far as any idea when construction can be complete? I know we're kind of putting a cart before the horse with that question, but do you have like a target date potentially where it would be completed?
The proposed owner, or the owner, Bill Theophilopoulos, is on the line. Bill, would you say it's about approximately an 8 to 9 month period?
Go ahead. About 8 to 9 months, hopefully starting construction at least by beginning of August, early July. The way things are going on, things are really moving along now with the contractor and the engineers, and Mr. Miller can vouch for that too as well. June, just everything's been flying now, so hopefully we're looking maybe by August to get construction done into September. We like to get at least the building up before winter comes and start working on the inside. And our goal is hopefully for the spring to be ready to open.
And to,
Okay.
if I may further add to that, Mr. Chairman, is I believe the financing is well underway, and I'm just waiting for the final commitment letter to issue.
Okay. Okay, so I'm sure the board might have.
Just for a quick
Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
moment, we're working with all the appropriate members of Tewksbury Town Hall with regard to permit applications. So that process has been in place well, since we obtained a special permit, and we're waiting for just the construction permits to be issued. We've submitted applications to the Board of Health. So all that stuff is underway. We're in the process of getting the green sheet signed by all departments. And the special permit has been recorded. And so we're just kind of steps away from being able to break ground with the town of Tewksbury. So everything's been moving along. Things moved around a little slower due to COVID, but the ball is rolling in the right direction. And based on my conversations with Bill and Doug, the closing of the property is in short order.
No, like I said, the paperwork was fine, and they totally understood with COVID-19. Totally understood. The whole premise is we do have one, right now we have one malt license in our hands in the town, and we have seeked for additional malt licenses as well as liquor license, and we do, until we don't know when, because COVID kind of slowed everything down there. So we just want to be, what's the word, cautious that we don't give the license, and then we're talking about 12 to 16 months we're going to open up, and we might have another application in front of us. So, but what I'd like to do is I'm going to open up to the board because I'm sure they had the same questions, and what I might do, we have our senior town council on this meeting, to talk about that. If we do issue the license, can we put some type of I want to say restrictions, but some type of structure around the license so that if it's not used in a certain time frame, we would have a hearing to bring that back. So I just wanted to kind of, put those questions out first before I open it up to the board. That's all. So with that being said, why don't I open up the board? How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. This is an exciting project for the town of Tewksbury, especially at this time through this virus pandemic. So I appreciate the investment into the town. I think a $3 million investment, Mr. Chair, and this would probably be redirected to our attorney, Mr. Zaroulis. And I know we only have that one beer and wine, but a $3 million investment, what type of assurance can we give the business owners attorney's rule is to make sure that the $3 million investment doesn't go by the wayside. So that's through the chair, to Mr. Zarulis. If you could clarify what we can do tonight to assure the business, we want to be a good partner, the town wants to be a good partner, and I am fine with a $3 million restaurant on the 133 area to make a commitment to the business owner as we have taken our time getting the other licenses. I understand that things are kind of locked up a little bit, but this is an important investment, an important business to the town. I'd like to see it very successful. What can we do to assure the business owner that as things go through in the next year or so, that they're going to be fine with putting in $3, maybe more million dollars into the town? So I guess that's Mrs. Rulis, if you could answer that, what type of insurance we can give them. And I think you're muted. You're muted, Mrs. Rulis.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Zulus, you should be good. Yes, you're good. Yep.
The town should not give any assurance that would lead one to believe they may have a guarantee for a license. So I remind everybody there that just as this hearing this evening is supposed to be a fair, impartial hearing, that the next hearing for full liquor license needs also to be a full hearing without any preconditions or statements or assurances. It has to be a hearing on the merits at that time. And to give an assurance now, in my view, would color the position of the board insofar as that next hearing would be concerned, because someone could say that you people, before the hearing ever occurred, made a predetermination as to the outcome of that hearing. And I believe that's inappropriate. So these people, whoever goes into this business, like any other business, makes a calculation. There's nothing on my table that would indicate that there's any disqualifying event as to a hearing on a full liquor license. But also, I don't know whether between now and then there are going to be violations at this restaurant or some other activity that may create a problem in 2 years or 3 years, whenever the full liquor license comes about. So I think it's inappropriate to give an assurance. I'm surprised actually it's being requested, an assurance that they would get a license. I saw the letter that was sent regarding this matter, requesting an assurance, and I made myself clear with the town manager that that would be inappropriate at this time to give an assurance for a future hearing as to what the outcome of that hearing might be.
So at this hearing, we couldn't grant this license to this business owner?
No,
Well,
let me just jump in quickly. Mr. Breindick, you're referring to the license today at hand, right? Not the liquor license, correct?
I mean, this is a liquor license application that we're discussing tonight, correct? No?
This is a wine and malt license that is being requested today, but the letter the town received sought assurance that when an application came up for a full liquor license, that they would receive it. So I am referring only to the full liquor license in the future. The license tonight, even though the building is not there, the board may grant the license this evening for a wine and malt license, but will not issue the license until the building is constructed and a certification is filed that the building has been constructed in accordance with the plans that were submitted to the board, which are part of this record.
Okay. So thank you for that clarification, Mr. Chairman. I can throw it back to you, but I appreciate, I guess my comment is I just want the business owner to understand that we want to work with them to get to completion. That's kind of what I was trying to get to. I know you can't issue the license now because there's no way to serve booze or alcohol on the establishment as is. But my point, I guess, was with the enormous investment, we just want to be good partners. So I'll throw it back to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to clarify, or if I'm a little out of line on something. Why don't you take it from here? Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, the only thing we're talking about tonight is the wine and malt license, period. To Mr. Rizzuto's point, I think it's not in our best interest to even consider the liquor license at this time, to all the points that Mr. Zarula's brought up. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, when I said liquor, I'm reading, I should have said wine and malt liquor.
Oh, so, okay. All right, we're on the same page. I thought you meant that. So, okay.
I think it's wine and malt liquor versus an all alcohol liquor license.
Correct.
If I may,
My discussion was about the wine and malt liquor license.
Okay.
Thank you.
if I may interject for just one moment, that's why I clarified the difference between the grant and the issuance. So you will grant if you're in favor, you will grant the license this evening. It will not be issued until the building is constructed, a certification is filed. Once that occurs, it will be issued.
And I might have some more questions on the timing of that, but why don't we go through the rest of the board? So any other questions or comments, Mr. Brian Dink?
That's it. That clarifies everything that I wanted to talk about.
Perfect. How about Ms. Jane Wellman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for coming this evening with your counsel. It's exciting to look at your application, and I agree with my colleague that it's very exciting what you're planning to do in Tewksbury. Really briefly, can you just give us a little background of your restaurant management and or ownership experience so that folks at home get to know you a little better?
Yep.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Anastasia Stacy Theophilopoulos. This is my husband, Bill. We have been the owners of Jimmy's Pizza 2 25 years and 20 years from when we got married. Currently, we have Jimmy's Pizza 2 on 480 Chelmsford Street in Lowell. We have a beer and wine license that issues with the city of Lowell in regards to compliance. We have a very successful business and we're ready to take the next step. We've been looking for years, and once we did find a location in Tewksbury, we were very excited. So moving forward, we do know that in order for our business to be successful, we do need a liquor license. Right now we are fine taking a beer and malt a wine license until something else is available. Other than that, feel free to ask us any questions. Like I said, 25 years in business, and we are very excited to take that next step.
In the city of Tewksbury.
Yep.
Yeah,
No,
town of Tewksbury, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
What is your vision for, is it going to be called Theo's? What's your vision for it? I love the architectural drawings. It looks very, like it will fit nicely in that section of town. It looks fantastic for what we like to see for an aesthetic. Not that the Board of Selectmen has anything to do with that part of it, that's planning. But it's very exciting to look at your plans and your designs. And I'm wondering, what is your vision for your dining options, entertainment, stuff like that down the road? Not to license or anything, just to get a sense.
Right. We are going to be fast casual. So take out, pick up, as well as eat in. Menu is going to be anywhere from pizza, gourmet sandwiches, fried seafood, broiled seafood, soups. And we want to be family friendly. I can clarify that we will not be a watering hole. That is not what we want to be. Our hours are going to be pretty much, 10 a.m. to the latest, probably 11 midnight.
And then the weekends probably, stop at 11, close up at 12. because we have I see there's a lot of hotels there, highway, a lot of, we got Tewksbury in the middle, we have Andover north of us, south of us, we have Lowell. So there's a lot of potential there for doing business with a lot of communities in that area too as well, which I like a lot. And on a busy road at 133. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, definitely family friendly.
Yeah.
And
on the designs too, you haven't noticed too, but there's also going to be a patio going outside towards overlooking 133. So you don't really see that on our plans right now, but I'm working on making a patio outside too as well, enclosed. So they'll beautify the restaurant even more.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love hearing that you like the location and you have access to all these markets, because it's something that Tewksbury talks about a lot in our literature of economic development. So that is great. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town manager, if we could get a count on what our current liquor license, I know that we're out of them. How many do we have? And then how many beer and malt licenses do we have?
Let me get you that count. I can get that shortly, but this is the last beer and wine license that we do have.
Okay.
We have petitioned the state for additional licenses, and we're still working on that.
Sure.
We just need to provide them areas of the town that we wish the new licenses to be located. But I can get that number for you before this meeting ends.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, either through you to the town manager or to town council, in the process, I understand that the beer and malt license won't be issued until the building is constructed. At what point can they come back, should a license open up for a full liquor license, and apply for that in advance of them either breaking ground or finishing construction? At what point, is there any limit to that? Unless it's once there's one available? Just looking for a process question.
There is
Charles
no,
can jump in, but I believe they can come back at any time. Once a license is available, they can come back at any time.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's my questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Very good. How about Ms. Stronach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too was very excited about this project and was kind of awestruck by the design. Ms. Wellman and Mr. Dick asked a lot of the same questions that I was asking. I was going to ask where we are in the process of ABC, if we have a timeline of when we will be getting that information back, because I believe we asked for that close to a year now, if my recollection is correct. So I don't know if you have an answer to that, Mr. Montori, through the chair.
Nothing has been submitted yet to the ABCC. Once tonight's process is complete, we can start that process.
Okay. I know that we have been talking about it. So any idea how long that typically takes?
It's hard to say under the current conditions right now, and how often, what their process is at the moment. Once we get this process done tonight and we understand what the applicant is doing moving forward, we'll move this as fast as we can within their schedule for construction and opening.
Great. And then I would just like to say to Mr. Kelly's point about the packet being very complete, we typically get a list of the abutters. I was glad to see the certified letters to all the abutters, so I appreciated that bit of information. I didn't realize there were so many abutters in that area. It surprised me. And I appreciated Attorney Zaroulis's point to us, letting us know that in the beginning that we do not have a waiting list. I think that was him. It might have been Jay, but so I appreciate that. And I have no questions. I wish you lots of success, and I'm looking forward to participating in your business.
Very good. How about Mr. Mark Kratman?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm very excited about this project. I think that area would be perfect for a restaurant. It's a great location. It's near interstate. It's off of 133. So, and I think there's plenty of traffic to generate great business for the place. But I just have one concern. If we were to issue the license tonight, and there was a delay with building permits or delays with somebody filing something, like an abutter filing something with the tying up the licenses, like how could we issue the license for a specific time? And if, say there's some, and I know the business owner has been in business for a number of years, so that's very encouraging. But if this project was to be delayed for a couple of years, I wouldn't want to tie up a license if something just dragged on. You know, is that if we could put a time frame on the license or the permit to say that you know, this is to be built within a certain time and the license is issued for a certain amount of time. So seeing it as our last beer and malt, a wine and malt license that we have left, I just wouldn't want to have something sitting out there and having something delayed for any type of reason.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond to that?
Please.
Thank you. And that's a very good question, Mr. Kratman. Right now, there are no appeals. The site plan was approved. All of what I'll call the zoning permits have been obtained. Appeal periods have run. So it's literally at this point, someone may appeal if you grant a license provisionally even tonight for the beer and wine. That the only person I could think of is in a butter challenging that with the ABCC, although I find it difficult they'd have any good grounds, but that would be about the only thing to delay. Everything else is moving forward. The bank will impose a time limit for getting the construction completed. I can't imagine that it would go beyond a year. And I also recognize that every year a license has to be renewed. So I think a 1-year time period would be sufficient. And if we had to come back and we could explain why there was a delay, we would do so. But we don't see such happening right now at all.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser, for that update. My only concern was I know there's been a number of permits issued from the planning board for developments on 38 that have seemed to linger year after year after year. And there's signs out there saying we're going to building soon and just never seems to come to fruition. This is encouraging. I love the fact that I'm looking forward to something moving there in that location, and I think the residents would love something in that location. So that's great news. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to do is I am good. I think all my colleagues said it too. When we start debating whether we approve or not approve or how we do that, we'll get into that. But at this time, what I'd like to do is open up. Are there any direct abutters associated with this land or this application at this time?
On the line, Mr. Chairman, but there's about a 30-second delay with the online stream.
Okay. So let's give it that. Let's give it 30 seconds. Start your watch, Brian. But I think that's only fair. I'm just trying to look too. I know we have a lot of folks.
Mr. Chairman, can I just provide one bit of information that Ms. Wellman asked for? We have a total of 30 all alcoholic restaurant licenses and 6 beer and wine restaurant licenses.
Did you say 30 all alcohol?
Yes.
Beer and wine?
Yes.
And here's another question, which if it's all right with the chair, I'll ask. How many of those all alcohol licenses are in use?
All of them.
Actually being used, not
Yes.
just owned by a business that may be closed or something like that.
Nope, they're all active.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any direct abutters, Brian? I don't see any.
No calls, Mr. Chairman, and the stream is caught up.
Okay, very good. So I'd like to, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So
I'll make that motion.
I
second,
have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so the public hearing is closed. So this brings it back to the board, and I guess I'll just start just with a few maybe comments and just to get your gears going. I'm all for this. I think it is unbelievable. They're taking a big risk in not so certain times, so that's commendable. I'm in the mindset, if we have one, let's use it. We're not going to wait. But I am just a little bit nervous that, we do have, we're looking at spring of 2021. So I'm just wondering how we could craft a potential motion that kind of protects us. I would hate to issue the license, the business never be open, and the clients essentially are sitting on a beer and malt license, which they may, could potentially, sell to another individual. So again, nothing against the client whatsoever, but I just want to see how we might be able to put a little protection in there, because it's a whole timing thing. So, and if we need, listen, our backs are against the wall. If we need to, just consideration to the board, if we need to table this for another 2 weeks so we can talk with town council and see how we might craft that motion. We don't have to. So I just wanted to share that with the board just to get everyone thinking. So with that being said, any other questions for the board through Mr. Zaroulis or through Mr. Montori at this time?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Possible for us to put an expiration date on a liquor license? Are we allowed to do that? Or is so that we put the issuance of this license to say June of 2021, given that construction is looking at a year out? Is that possible?
Mr. Chairman, Charles Zaroulis.
Please.
My suggestion would be, I don't think it's all that complicated. I think that when you vote to grant the license, not to issue it, but to grant it, you grant it with a condition that the certification for completion of construction must be received by the board by a certain date. They indicated that construction would take less than 1 year. I would probably suggest that you allow them at least 18 months from the grant of the license, and with the understanding that should there be any kind of a problem that develops so as to prevent the certification by that time, the 18-month time, that they request of the board an extension of time, and if the board finds it's reasonable, it does so. But I think if you give an 18-month period, based on what they've said, that should be a reasonable period for construction and filing the certification of completion with the board.
Mr. Zaroulis, just clarification. What's the certification? So I understand what you're saying. We can grant the license today, 18 months, but what's that certification, that line of demarcation that you're referring to?
They have filed plans. You're granting a license to a particular area, the building that they have submitted plans for, and I believe I checked to see that they did have included in their license a patio area. So your license that is going to be granted is going to encompass that particular area of the plans that they have submitted and the style of construction that they have submitted. At the end of construction, they need to file with the board a certification that the construction has been in accordance with these plans, at which time you will issue the license. So that should take about, according to what I heard, almost a year. I'm suggesting you leave a little leeway, a little extra time, and allow 18 months for the receipt of the certification, the certification of completion of the project.
Okay, so if I just break that down, Mr. Zaroulis, potentially, if we vote this way, we're going to grant the license, and then the client would have to come back in front of us within that 18th month period to say everything's all set, and that's the certification of completion, and then at only that time we would issue the license.
That's right.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms.
Thank
Stronach.
you.
I know that.
Nope, that's absolutely fine. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the forethought of looking at the what ifs. I also do not necessarily want the proponent to have to come into another meeting in 2 weeks if we have a way to address this tonight. I think that Attorney Zaroulis has provided us a path for all of us to consider, and I appreciate the information. Thank you.
When
Very
you
good.
vote to grant when you vote to grant the license this evening, even though I think you already took a vote, but you can amend it to provide that grant is with the condition that a certification of completion in accordance with plans will be submitted to the board in 18 months from this date.
Understood. Thank you. I'll leave it to my other colleagues for comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any questions or comments? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to grant the license as presented tonight for a period of 18 months based on the wine and malt liquor application for Theo's Restaurant Group, Inc., with the understanding of presenting a letter of compliance at the end of the evening.
May I interrupt, Selectman Dick?
Sure.
With the condition that a certification be filed within 18 months of the date
Certification
of
of
this
completion.
grant.
Right, I was going to get to that piece. So yeah, I'd like to add that to my motion. The condition of certification presented to the board after that 18-month period. That's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. I have a
Second.
motion. Do I have a
Second that.
second? Okay, I have a motion, a second by Ms. Wellman. Any questions? All right, it's going to be a roll call vote because of virtual meeting. Mr. Brian Dick, how do you vote?
Did you get that? Aye.
All right, very good. Now I did. All right, Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Congratulations and best of luck in Tewksbury. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all the members of the board and to town council and town manager. Thank you all.
And from us,
Thank you all.
thank you very much too as well. Hope to see you soon.
Town of Tewksbury, most
See you
appreciated.
soon.
Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, very good. All right, next scheduled item is 99 Restaurant of Boston, LLC, DBA 99 Restaurant and Pub, change of officers and directors. So for this one here, what I'd like to do, I think it's as simple as this. Open up, we've already voted on it. Pending, we just for the residents, we never published the public hearing in the newspaper. So we voted affirmative, yes, pending there's no direct abutters that have any issues with that. So what I'd like to do is, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion, do I have a second? Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Jane Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so the public hearing is open. So I'm not going to pause right now, and I'll turn to our friends Brian and Jason. Jason, do you know of any, not the resident section, any direct abutters for this particular matter?
We have no callers yet, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, I think this one's cut and dry. If we do happen to get a direct abutter, we can, we'll go back to it. So I don't even think a vote is required at this time. Mr. Montori, can you keep me honest?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Okay, so I think that matter's done. So if we get a direct abutter to call for this particular matter, we'll revisit it, but I think we are good. So, next. All right. Next order of business, Main Street. I get a lot of static, but we have Main Street Sports Grill Corporation looking for an entertainment license application. This is also a public hearing, so do I have a motion to waive the public reading?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. So do we have representation from Main Street Sports Grill?
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Kukulis is with us, but muted.
Okay, I see that. So let's do this. I just took him off. Unmute. Uh-oh. I won't try that last name, but Leo, do we have you? There you go. Leo, the floor is yours to explain kind of what you're looking for in the
Hello?
application, my friend. Yep,
Hello?
you're good. Leo.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like he's having low bandwidth issues. Just for the public to know.
We're
Someday we'll be back in town hall. Someday.
have some,
Okay.
like a trivia night. Yes.
He's coming through on my end, but very, very low.
Yeah, I get. We
Can
got
you hear
you.
me?
Yep. Okay, that's good, Leo. Yep. Now we see you too, Leo.
Oh, you see me? Can you hear me?
Very good. It's better. Yep. The floor is yours, Leo.
All right. So we're looking for the entertainment license. We have TVs for, it's a sports bar, so TVs for watching sports and things, and also for we're thinking about having like a trivia night, and maybe like a 1 or 2 piece band, you know, a Thursday or Friday night and things like that. But nothing crazy, but just a little entertainment.
Okay, very good. So what we'll do is let's open up to the board, and then we'll open up for a public hearing for the direct abutters, and then we'll go from there. So how about we start from the top? How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yep, Mr. Kukulis, this entertainment license that you're looking for me, seems to go hand in hand with the business model that I'm familiar with. I believe you're going to have, you know, it's a sports bar and grill. You're going to have TVs. So the town of Tewksbury requires you to apply for that entertainment license for TVs. I mean, that's the primary use, I believe. And then you're going to have, I believe you might have radio. And then maybe you mentioned acoustic music 1 night a week. So I'm fine with you know, what's being presented here. I know you have dancing by patrons, and I'm a dancer, so who knows? You know, you start tapping your toe, that happens. So I know you've checked that off, and that's all good by me. So I have no problem with this entertainment license. You've already applied for the full liquor license, and that was approved unanimously by this board. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Very good. How about Ms. Wellman?
Sounds like a great addition to our business community to expand your operations to include entertainment. So I think that's exciting, especially trivia night. While Mr. Dick may be a dancer, I like the trivia. Okay. Occasionally I like the dancing, but the trivia is my jam, so to speak. So anyway, that's a lot of fun. So thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing what you do with your business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. How about Ms. Stronach?
I might be dancing with Mr. Dick. I am very much in favor of this. Your establishment is a great community partner, and I want to thank you for everything that you do. And I think that your neighbors appreciate the way you run your business as well. So, thank you.
Perfect. How about Mr. Kratman?
I have no comment. I'm not dancing with anyone.
Good.
All right. All right, very good. And I'm good here as well. Very straightforward. And I know every business because you know all the help they can get. So what I'll do is let's pause for a second and let's same deal here. Let's see if there's any direct abutters. Again, not residents, direct abutters against the application.
No callers, Mr. Chairman, but the stream still remains 30 seconds behind.
Okay. I'm going to take a little risk here, and I'm going to put it back to the board, and if we get a direct abutter to call, and we'll deal with it, we'll go from there. So that being said, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, cool. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so the public hearing is closed. That being said, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the entertainment license application for Main Street Sports Grill Corporation.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Jane Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Anne Marie Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Congratulations, Leo. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, the next order of business is Woburn Street pole position. Do we have a representation? And again, this is a public hearing, so I have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize. Do I have a motion to waive the public hearing reading? I'm sorry. All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Brian Dick, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. So that being said, do we have a representation from, is it National Grid, I believe?
That's me. My name's Dave Boucher from National Grid. There you go, from the grid.
Nice, David.
Hi, folks. As you probably have noticed on Woburn Street, there's a number of new poles that have gone in. Because of the increase of load in the area, I think there's a data center going in Lowell. We need to run heavier lines down Woburn Street. And in order to do that, we try to keep our lines as straight as possible. There's new poles going in with those heavier lines. And in order to keep the line straight so that we don't have to put in supporting fixtures like guy wires and anchors, we are asking for this pole 1-50, which is a half, we call it a half pole between pole 1 and pole 2. Because there is an angle between pole 1, 2, and 3 that is created by, it's just existent in the field. So in order for us to go forward and complete this project and keeping our lines safely going straight down the road, we're asking for that new pole location. And the drawing that we've provided shows that it's about approximately 15 feet from pole 2. And I think it was 95. I don't have it in front of me right now from pole 1. If you had any questions about that, I'll try to answer that, but that's pretty much it.
Very good. Let's open up to the board, and I'll just call your name out. If you have nothing, that's fine. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. How about Ms. Wellman?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Ms. Stronach?
Nothing to add. Pretty straightforward. Thank you. And the paperwork was all in line as well.
Okay. How about Mr. Mark Kratman?
He's on mute.
Mr. Kratman?
Yep, now can you hear me? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're good.
No, I just want to thank the proponent for supplying the drawing. I always have the same question about, I always have concerns about pole relocations and where they go, especially to deal with sidewalks and handicap accessibility. And this one is very clear that it's in the grassed area. They have the sidewalk area marked off. It shows how far away it is. So it's a nice submittal. I appreciate that. I'd love to see a couple more submittals like this so we don't have to ask those questions. But thank you for submitting that. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Same deal here. And just for the residents, the paperwork was very thorough as usual. This one looked like pretty easy. However, it is a public hearing. So at this point, I'd like to open up to any direct abutters. Again, this is in a resident section. This is for direct abutters for the poll petition.
We have no callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We're going to keep the same common theme here. What I'd like to do is close the public hearing. If someone does happen to pop on, then we can go from there. So do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. So we're going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Miss Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That being said, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the poll petition as submitted.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, perfect. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick, how do you vote?
Aye.
Miss Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, next on the agenda is, actually, this is our resident section. So I know we put the phone number up. So at this point, Brian, Jason, do we have any residents? I'm trying to look. Any residents calling in?
No callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. If the residents does call in, we'll jump to them. Why don't we go to, why don't we jump to new business? So new business, so this is, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay. So let's go to new business. We have Article 27 and Article 28 of the annual town meeting ruling. So just for the residents, this article deals with, maybe Mr. Kratman, actually, you want to just kind of just describe Article 27 and 28? You've been very involved, and then kind of we'll talk about maybe what we may or may not do. Is that all right?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. We've had the articles, we've had a lot of discussions, we've had a lot of public meetings on these articles, talking about zoning in the town. There is a meeting that's being scheduled with the committee for later on this week. I believe it's on Friday. I think I talked to the town manager and the assistant town manager earlier about that. It's just talking about the zoning that we have put this committee together to discuss, and certain things that we're looking to have the town review. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about timing and when we're going to be bringing this to town meeting, if it should be brought in the spring or in the fall. So I believe that's the subject of tonight's meeting, to discuss if we should bring it.
Okay. Yeah, just for additional color here. I mean, this is a big one for the town. This is a big one. So we haven't done zoning bylaw updates since, Mr. Montoya can keep me honest, 2002. So almost 18 years ago. So a committee was formed. The committee has actually been in place for 3 years now, working with experts to try to simplify the zoning bylaws and then ultimately bring those to a town meeting. And then we vote a yay or a nay. But the complications for here is obviously we have a lot of budgetary items coming up here next week, next Monday and Tuesday during town meeting. But there have been many, many residents basically saying, listen, this isn't a must do right now. Is there any way to postpone this? Obviously, we have to get the financials done, or we have to take a whole different path. So we have to get the financials done in a timely fashion. However, there's been a lot of discussion here is why put this on the article with COVID-19? Is there any way, shape, or form that we can kind of put these as a placeholder, and whether we bring them up in October during special town meeting, or if we revisit this a year from now? So there's been a lot of concern because I think we all know in Tewksbury usually there's a lot of debate and discussion around zoning bylaws, and this one, like I said, it's rewriting a lot of that piece. So with that being said, Mr. Montori, I'm going to turn it to you. Anything else to add or we should talk about as a select board?
No, Mr. Chairman. The zoning bylaw review committee is going to meet on Monday to discuss this issue specifically. And since it's their article, then they'll make the decision. But there's nothing more for me to add from what either you or Mr. Crafton mentioned.
Okay. And I guess the whole purpose of kind of like putting it on the agenda just for the residents is just to talk about it. Like I said, there's been a lot of discussion in town, and make no mistake about it. This isn't a vote saying, yes, we want it, no, we don't. That's not the case at all. It's the case of, do we bring it to a meeting where we can have full participation from our community? That's it. So I think we touched upon it now. I want to pause. Would any of the board members like to make a comment? Again, I just wanted to talk about it to the residents. Thank you, Mr. Kratman. Anyone else want to add any color?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Thank you. I've had a number of conversations with a lot of people in the community on this who've raised this issue or made a phone call to me about it. And, you know, I think it's important that we move the ball down the field with this, so to speak, in terms of zoning, because it's been so long. However, I would concur that now is not the best time for something that has such a great impact on our zoning and our plans and all the things that we need to be doing. So I would, I think it's wise to bring this back. We can't indefinitely postpone it, but withdraw it and bring it back is the right thing to do, because you can't assign something to a future town meeting. One town meeting can't do that to the next town meeting. But I think that's a procedural issue for folks at home. But I think it's something that we can do. And the remaining portion of the warrant is mostly financial information, the budget and so forth, that folks are really familiar with. The process that we go through to approve these kinds of things with the revolving funds, the enterprise funds, and so forth is process I think that most people are familiar with. And I haven't received any questions about that specifically, you know, to the substance of those articles. But with the zoning, there's been a lot of concern. So I think it's probably wise. Thank you.
Okay. How about Ms. Stronach or Mr. Bryant? Any comments?
I'll jump in. I, at the last meeting, wanted to hold off on voting for both of these articles, waiting for the Finance Committee to weigh in. I did watch the Finance Committee. I do know that they voted for both of these articles. Comments about the work that is being done and has been done on these two articles. I unfortunately would love to move this, and as Ms. Wellman pointed out, move the ball down the field a little bit. But I do think that the timing of this isn't right. And in order to give our residents a greater voice, where some people may not just feel comfortable coming to town meeting. That's my concern. It's not that there are some people who may not feel comfortable. And I think waiting another 6 months isn't going to devastate any project given the conditions that we are in. So my question would be to Mr. Montori would be, what would the impact be if we did not do this now and push this to the next town meeting, which would be in October?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please.
It's hard to determine what the impact would be because you'd be working within the current zoning bylaws. So I'm not sure if there's any real I'm not sure there's going to be any real impact between now and the next town meeting, because there's nothing that we've seen in the development queue that would cause us concern or cause us to want the new bylaw in place. So I'm not sure there'll be any impact in that area. I think the question is going to be when will it be the best time to bring this bylaw forward? I'm not sure if the fall is going to be any better than now. We may have to wait till May next year to bring it back. And then at that point, the impact could be greater depending upon the type of development that comes forward. But right now, because there's nothing in the queue, it doesn't look like there'd be any development that would impact us by waiting. But I can't predict what will happen over the next couple of months.
Thank you, Mr. Montori. And you must be reading my mind because my other concern is that October may not be any better. I would like to think that we might be in a better place, but I'm not sure if that is the case. Unfortunately, the timing of this is not run by any of us. It's being run by something out of all of our control. I would, if it is the pleasure of everyone to hold on this, I am not sure I will feel the same way in October because I do think typically planning is done during the wintertime, and I would be worried that we would hold progress if this is the case. But if there's not going to be a huge impact from now to October, I would be in favor of that, but I'm looking forward to others' comments, points of views, and recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, I think Mr. Montori said it best. The ball, we just wanted to bring it up to the residents, and it's not going to be our decision. It will be the committee's decision next week. So I think we said a piece on the article, or articles. That's all. Any other further comment?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank the committee that has worked on this. The selectmen put them together, asking them to look at the zoning for our town. At the time, I think they were under the assumption that it was going to be 6 months to a year. That has been well over 3 years ago. Matter of fact, other than Selectman Stronach, I think I'm the only other selectman that was on the board when we appointed them to start this search and to go through our zoning. So they've been doing a lot of work. I would love for it to come to town meeting and have the residents review and have their say. I understand the concerns, and I think the committee understands that as well, because they've done a lot of work, a lot of volunteer hours from the committee, unbelievable commitment to put this together and looking out for the betterment of Tewksbury. And they're a really dedicated group. They've stayed with us for this whole time. Over a 3-year period is a long time, and they're looking forward to getting it to town meeting. So there may be some disappointment that they may want to get it there, but they'll understand it. We want to get something that the residents approve, or at least think it's some sort of improvement to it. It's not going to be a fix-all. It's they did what we sent them to do, not everything, but just to do some of zoning updates. And I think they did an admirable job. And I'm looking forward to meeting with them on Monday, and hopefully we'll get to present this to the residents shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Kratman. All right, I think we're good on that matter. If there's nothing else, let's jump to the next agenda item, which is boards and committees. So this one, team, this one's pretty, we do this every single year. I think the appointments for some, not all of the boards and committees, expire usually on June 30th. We get some, Mr. Kratman, can you mute, please? All right, thank you, cool, okay. This one here, what I'd like to do is, for some boards and committees, again, they expire this June 30th. So we had a number of applicants state that they want to be reappointed. And we also had a number of applicants said that they were going to step down at this time. So typically what we do is we kind of make a blank statement that those that want to get approved, we'll go ahead and approve them or reappoint them. Now, for some committees, this is only for Board of Selectmen appointments. So I know there's other committees that also go through the interviewing process. They may handle it differently, but that's typically what we do on the board. So at this time, are there any motions to reappoint those who like to be reappointed that expire on June 30th of this year? And then we'll do it in a couple of weeks. We'll see how many gaps or vacancies we have, and then we'll revisit them and we'll post those out and get new applicants and try to fill the committees at that point. But again, pretty typical that we do this time of year. Any questions from the board?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint any applicants that have reapplied for appointment to their committees and boards. And I'd make that a motion to approve them to their remaining term, to a new term of as submitted.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. And what we can do, why don't we, and what we'll do is, this is all just for the boards and committees, and the ones that we're on, why don't we take that up, or we can take that up after this motion. So I have a motion, I have a second. Mr. Brian Dick, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And just one final comment at that. Mr. Kratman, you just mentioned it earlier for the other committee, the zoning bylaw committee. These are all volunteers, just all volunteers in our community giving their time, their energy, their effort, and we know how many are committed, to these committees. So we can't thank you enough. So what we'll do is we'll see what gaps we have, and then a future Board of Selectmen meeting, we'll send some new things out to get new applicants in to fill the gaps. So now, as far as the selectmen appointed committees, if you would like to stand on your committee, would anyone like to get off of any of their committees that they're representing as the board, as a board member?
I'm good with my committees, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to remain on mine.
Okay, Ms. Stronach?
Did you hear that? I would like to remain on my committees as well.
Okay, perfect. How about Ms. Wellman?
I'm happy on the committees that I'm on. I'd like to join economic development if there's room for another person on that, if it's appropriate to have 2 selectmen on that, and if not, that's fine. Mr. Kratman's doing a great job.
Okay, yeah, we can revisit. We'll revisit that in a couple of weeks. Then we'll make the appointments. We'll see where the gaps are. Okay, perfect. And how about Mr. Brian Dick?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll remain on my committee, and I support all. I think everybody on this board is doing a great job, and I totally support for them to continue to do all the hard work that they're doing right now. So I support my fellow board members.
Okay, and same here. So maybe it's a procedural thing, but Mr. Montori, do we need to take a vote?
I would, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So again, we just did it for the residents that were on committee. So why don't we do it for the selectmen? So what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint the Board of Selectmen to the committees that they are on, and for another year, so whatever the term expires. And maybe I'm not sure with the school and the field. I'm not sure if there's a time frame on that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay. So next order of business.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Okay, so board, please.
You do need to, if you're comfortable tonight, to reappoint both town council and senior town council. They were on the list.
I had that one as well. I should have caught that one.
Mr. Chairman.
Do we have the pleasure? Please.
I would like to make a motion to appoint senior town council and our general town council.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye. Aye.
Ms. Wellman? Ms. Wellman, I'm going to get a... Ms. Wellman?
I said aye. Yeah, you didn't.
Okay. No, you were on the red mute there. Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay, unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Montori. Mr. Montori, any other order of business for boards and committees? Don't see any.
No, Mr. Chairman.
I think we're good. Okay. Okay, the next order of business is reorganization. We had an election yesterday, so now it's that time for the Board of Selectmen reorganization. So I'll take the chairman hat off and we take all the hats off and we start fresh. So do we have any motions for chair?
Mr. Chairman, I've been on this board for 5 years, going on my 6th year, and had the pleasure of serving as chair, vice chair, and this time being at this time, I am not seeking any of those positions. I think we have 2 women that have worked very well with this board. I've had the honor of serving as chair. I think, Mr. Kelly, you've served as chair. I think even Mr. Dick has served as chair of the school committee. But I think at this time, I would like to see the women take charge of this office. And so I would like to make a motion to make Anne Marie Stronach the chair of the Board of Selectmen, if she'd be willing to accept it. And if she's not willing to accept it, for some reason, I would offer a second motion to offer it to Miss Jane Wellman Miller. And I'll put that in a motion.
Well, we'll start one at a time. So what's your motion?
I make a motion to make Anne Marie Stronach our chair.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
I vote nay.
Miss Jane Wellman.
Aye.
Miss Stronach.
I just want to say that I totally appreciate the confidence that, sorry, it's,
But Ms. Stronach,
first of all, I would just like to, yep, I would just like to say that I totally appreciate the confidence that Mr. Kratman has put forward on my behalf. I love serving this community. I appreciate working with all of you colleagues. And I think it's been said a couple times tonight, how much work and effort you all put in. I also would like to take the opportunity to say that whether it is a woman or a man who serves on this board, I think that we all are put forward equally. And whether, like, I don't think that we need to be led by a gender. And I just like to put that out there. I totally appreciate that sentiment, but I feel that the contributions that we all make can collectively and as from our own different perspective, because there, you know, I am a woman. I do think maybe a little bit differently, but I do not think that that should factor into the decision of chair. Unfortunately, I know myself well enough to know that I am not in a position where I will be able to give this the effort that I would have to put into this, being that it is a huge responsibility to be chairman of this board. And unfortunately, at this time, I'm going to decline due to other obligations that I have and to be able to balance all of those responsibilities that I have. But Mr. Kratman, I am very, very honored to be nominated for chairman of this board. And I know that as being a chairman of the board, I know that you know how much work that is. And I know that you will understand why I'm declining. And with that, I am saying no to that opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Ms. Stronach, I honestly believe you deserve it, and I understand your commitment and what you may have to do with it. I just was thinking about it today, and I've been on this board for 6 years, and we started each meeting with Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman. And I think for a good decade before I became on the board, it's been Mr. Chairman. And so I was just thinking about it today, and unique times. I just thought that, you know, this is one of the rare times we actually have 2 women on our board, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm proud of the work that both of you have done. And I have full confidence in both of you, and that was the reason I made that motion. I just thought it would be a nice perspective to hear from you.
I totally appreciate that, and I totally understand that. And I really, I'm actually touched the reason I was stunned by the nomination, and I totally appreciate that, but I have to decline only because like everybody on this board, we're balancing a lot of different responsibilities, and I know myself better not to take on more than I can chew, which sometimes I tend to do. So, but thank you very much. I'm humbled.
Okay, and I'm just seeing, so Mr. Kratman, how do you vote on the motion?
I vote aye. I think she'd be a great chairman. I understand her not wanting to be able to take it at this time.
I think you've said your piece, my man.
Okay, all right, okay. I just wanted to just add to it. I just want to thank her for the thing.
Okay, very good. And the chair votes nay, so it's that the motion fails 2-3. So is there any other motions?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve Jay Kelly as chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Miss Jane Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
I guess the chair votes aye as well. And I just want to pause for a second. I know, very humble, very honored. You guys know how I operate as chair. Everyone has the keys. I say just keep me in the loop for everything. You guys have direct access to Richard and everyone. So you guys know how I operate. I'm very fair. I try to be very fair and honest and represent 30,000 residents. And like I said, try to be fair and honest to you all. So hopefully I've demonstrated that and will continue to demonstrate that. That's all. So we need a
chairman.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Very humbling and honoring. So thank you. How about a motion for a vice chair?
I'll make a motion to nominate Miss Jane Wellman to be our vice chair, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Seeing none, do I have another motion on the floor? Is there another motion?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Brian Dick.
Ms. Stronach, you're breaking up there, Ms. Stronach.
Let me try that again. I'd like to make a motion to.
Maybe Ms. Stronach, maybe you want to try killing your video? That might give you a little more bandwidth because it's just coming up a little bit choppy.
I would like to make a motion to have Mr. Brian Dick be the vice chair.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second that motion. So roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, 5-0. All right.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the board to put me in that position. I appreciate the nomination and the 5-0 unanimous vote. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right, Mr. Montori, it brings us down to town manager section. So the first order of business is the police chief
Mr.
appointment.
Chairman. Mr.
Please,
Chairman.
go ahead.
We need to nominate a clerk.
Do we have any motions? Thank you very much. I was jumping ahead. Do we have any nominations for clerk?
Mr. Chair, I make a nomination that Mrs. Stronach be clerk.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. Okay, and I think that completes the reorganization. Okay. All right, it brings us down to Mr. Montori, police chief appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I just would like to take a few minutes to discuss my recent decision and appointment of police chief for the town. But I want to just recap the process that we went through that brought me to my decision if I could. So to begin with, as everyone knows, Chief Sheehan retired in January and left actually to take the position of chief in South Portland, Maine. At the time that he left, we started the process to fill the vacancy of police chief. The police chief's position in Tewksbury is a civil service position. So we moved forward with a civil service sanctioned assessment center. I hired a firm called Badge Quest to administer the assessment center for the town as a third party group. We held the assessment center on February 13th, and 4 candidates from within the police department took part in the assessment center. The assessment center was administered by a panel of 3 experts in public safety. The assessors were made up of 2 retired police chiefs and 1 active police chief. They brought the 4 candidates that were involved in the assessment center through 5 exercises. The exercises were meant to evaluate the leadership, administrative, and management skills of each of the candidates. The exercises included oral exercises with the assessors and 1 written exercise with the assessors. The assessors scored each of the candidates after each exercise, and then the final scores were sent to civil service for review, and civil service ultimately, through those scores, ranked the candidates. On April 1st, civil service provided me with the list of the candidates ranked from 1 to 4. The rankings did not come with the scores of each of the candidates, just their rankings. The rankings that were sent to me had Lieutenant Ryan Columbus ranked number 1, Deputy Chief John Voto and Lieutenant Scott Gaynor were tied for 2nd, and 4th was Lieutenant Jim Williams. After the rankings came in, I began the process of setting up interviews with the top 3 candidates as it's outlined within civil service. At the same time, we were setting up interviews for each of the candidates. I had background checks conducted for each of the candidates to do my due diligence, and there were no issues that were raised within the background checks. The interviews took place on June 4th. The interview panel was myself, Assistant Town Manager Steve Sadwick, Human Resources Director Teresa Belanger, and Chairman of the Board of Selectmen Jay Kelly. We spent an hour and a half to 2 hours with each candidate. We went through a series of questions. I believe we had a total of 31 questions. Each of the same questions were asked of all of the candidates. After the interview process, I took the time to review the interviews that I went through. I took the time to reflect on the assessment center that I sat through, the assessment center. I had the opportunity to sit through it. I went through the information provided to me by the candidates. I thought about my time working with each of the candidates. And in the end, which became a very difficult decision because we were fortunate to have very good candidates within the assessment center process and the interview process, I decided to appoint Lieutenant Ryan Columbus as the town's next police chief. Ryan has nearly 20 years experience on the department. He is a graduate of Tewksbury High School He has a master's degree in criminal justice. He's a graduate of the National FBI Academy. He has risen through the ranks from patrolman to sergeant patrol supervisor to his current position of detective lieutenant within the department. He is also a veteran of the U.S. Air Force Reserves. In making my decision, I had a lot of information to weigh, but in the end, I felt that Ryan's performance in both the assessment center and the interview process were outstanding. He excelled in both. I felt his leadership skills, his understanding of the department, his understanding of the issues and challenges facing the department, and finally, his vision for the department led me to appointing him as our next police chief. Again, I want to reiterate that we had excellent candidates throughout the assessment center process and the interview process. These decisions are never easy decisions to make, but in the end, I feel that the appointment of Ryan is the correct decision. It's the best decision for the department, for the community. I believe he will continue the success of the Tewksbury Police Department that was started by previous chiefs, especially Chief Sheehan. I know that I am excited to begin working with Ryan. I have the utmost trust in him and the utmost confidence in his abilities. And I am pleased to present to the board tonight my appointment of Lieutenant Ryan Columbus as Tewksbury's next police chief. I believe Ryan is on the call with us and is available to speak with the board, but I want to congratulate him and I want to welcome him as the new police chief. He will be sworn in Friday morning at 10 o'clock in a private swearing in ceremony at Town Hall. And again, I am very proud to make this appointment and I'm excited for him. Thank you.
Mr. Montori, before we give the floor to Mr. Columbus, I'd just like to say a few words, if I could.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. I was part of the interviewing process, and I have relatives in law enforcement, and I cannot tell you how top-notch these candidates were, from Deputy Chief John Voto, Lieutenant Scott Gaynor, and obviously Detective Lieutenant Ryan Columbus. Their level of professionalism, I just can't say enough about all three candidates. They were honorable, and they truly displayed the love for our community. It was just, I'm not trying to sound corny, but it was awe-inspiring to be part of that interviewing process. And for me, all three would have served and protected Tewksbury well as chief. That said, I absolutely support your decision, Mr. Montori, and I'd like to thank John and Scott and congratulate Ryan for being selected as our next chief of police of Tewksbury. Like I said, I can't thank all three candidates enough. It was such a great experience to go through, and it was just so humbling. So that being said, Mr. Columbus, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Montori, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I'm honored. I love this community. I love this profession. The support that we get from you, from the board, from the community in these times certainly is overwhelming right now. I get stories all the time, officers telling them that at the polls, people coming up to officers and saying, thanking them for their service. And you guys have always supported us. We really appreciate that. It was a very difficult process. I'm proud to have been a part of it. It was very professional. I want to thank Deputy Chief John Bodo and Scott Gaynor for pushing me and pushing the process and making it challenging. They're both gentlemen, and they've congratulated me. They've had conversations with me, and we're going to work together, and we're going to be a team, and we're going to do what's best for the community and the citizens that we serve.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks again, and congratulations.
Thanks so much. I look forward to meeting all of you in person, working with all of you. Like I said, I can't say it enough. You all have supported us over the years, and that doesn't come without us earning it. We have to earn it every day with the interactions we have with the citizens. But it means a lot to the officers right now during this difficult time. And they have my support, and I know they have yours. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to congratulate Chief Columbus. Also want to thank Mr. Montori and all those that jumped in, you, Mr. Chairman, as well, on a difficult decision. 3 great candidates, as we've mentioned. Mr. Montori, it was a methodical process. You took your time. You were clear and decisive, and I appreciate that as a board member. Tewksbury, again, lucky to have 3 great candidates. I want to thank Deputy Chief Vodo. He's a class act. I'd like to thank him for doing all the things he did the last 6 months, stepping in. And it was a very difficult time with the virus and all that. So he did a great job. All candidates had a chance to shine. And Mr. Chief Columbus, you took the ball and ran with it, if you will. So I'm proud of that, proud of you, proud of Tewksbury, and I thank you, and I wish you the best. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. Any other comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Ms. Wellman.
Thank you very much. I wanted to echo Mr. Dick's comments. Chief Columbus, welcome to being our new chief. Thank you for engaging in this process. Likewise, I am thankful for all the people that engaged in the process and for Mr. Montori for setting it up. It was professional, it was rigorous, it's what is expected from our residents. And we are very fortunate in Tewksbury to have such excellent candidates. It speaks to the training and the leadership of your forebears, so to speak. And I think that speaks well for the department going forward. I do also want to extend my thanks to Deputy Chief Vodo. He's done a great job in that role, and he has stepped into the void, especially at such a difficult time. And I know the rest of the department has been working really, really hard, and you have my support. And I'm excited to see what happens next. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the board?
I just want to jump in, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, to say that congratulations, Chief Columbus. I am looking forward to getting to learn more about you and meet you as well. So I appreciate that offer. I too want to say that I absolutely want to thank Deputy Chief John Bodo. I don't know Mr. Gaynor's exact title. I didn't write it down. And I would also, Lieutenant, thank you. And also Mr. Williams. It makes it much better when we have people putting themselves out there. I think it says a lot about the police department itself that so many people are willing to step up and lead. I know that you have a tremendous force who are working hard every day, and not only for our residents, but under the leadership that's provided by the chief. And I know that they support that, and I know that they are just killing it and crushing it every single day. So I want to give them my gratitude, as well as Deputy Chief Vodo for the last 6 months. It's been a very difficult time to be a police officer. Like Mr. Kelly, I have family who are police officers, and I know that it is a struggle. Because unfortunately you're painted with the brush of some people who may not be the best as they can be. So I want to thank you. I want to thank your staff. And most importantly, I want to thank Deputy Chief Vodo for the last 6 months for the leadership that he has shown this community, which has just been second to none in my opinion. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Kratman?
I just want to say congratulations, Ryan. I look forward to saying that in person when you're sworn in on Friday. I think we have great officers in this town. It shows, even though there was a difficult decision, that they came together. They're having conversations, and they are going to work together to make the police force even better in this town. I'm very proud of every one of you. I have a brother that's a police officer as well. I understand the camaraderie you all have together and how you always take care of each other. And I'm sure this is going to make our force even better. And I'm very proud that you're our new chief, and thank you very much for your service. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, thanks again, Mr. Columbus. All right, Mr. Montour, we're going to turn it back to you. I think we have a couple invoices, and we're almost there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have an invoice for senior town council, the amount of $3,150, and I would recommend a payment. That's for April 2020.
I'll make that motion as recommended, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second by Ms. Weldon. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Jane Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
And Mr. Chairman, we have another invoice for May of 2020 in the amount of $3,150 for senior town council, and I would recommend approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay, Mr. Martoni, any other order of business on your side?
No, Mr. Chairman, just a reminder that annual town meeting starts on Monday evening at the high school gym at 7:30. The warrants were mailed out to all the residents. There are warrants on the website. I will have the handout for a town meeting on the website by the end of this week. Just put some final touches on it. The town meeting will be set up in a way that there's proper social distancing for residents. We will have overflow into the cafeteria and into the auditorium to ensure that we have proper social distancing. We will have all of the appropriate hand sanitizer and other personal protection equipment at the gym, so people will be safe and we have no issues. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that and just let the residents know that we will have all of the precautions in place and we'll be ready to go for a town meeting.
Excellent, thank you. All right, it brings us down to, I don't believe we have any minutes, so we're going to jump to board member reports. Let's start at the top with Mr. Brian Dick.
Nothing to add tonight, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
How about Ms. Jane Wellman?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Ms. Stronach?
The only thing I have to add is that the events committee actually met to say that they are hoping that they can have tree lighting and there'll be more to come. And other than that, I have nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. How about Mr. Mark Kratman?
My committees meet at the end of the month, Mr. Chairman, so I'll have something at our next meeting, but nothing tonight.
Okay, and just short and sweet, just to kind of bulletin announcement, we're going to get posted up on the community calendar. There is a food drive to benefit the Tewksbury Community Food Pantry. That's going to be Saturday, June 27th, so a week from this Saturday, 9 to 12 at Oakdale Plaza Market Basket. And I want to thank the Democratic Committee for pulling that together. So that's all I had. So with that being said, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion, a second roll call vote. The final roll call vote of the night, Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Jane Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.